So there's a couple of things I want to point out so that you guys don't make the same mistake that I did. I've gone ahead and disassembled and reassembled this front end several times trying to figure out where I'm off, because this side over here was about a ½ inch higher than the other side, and everything on the measurements, well, I'll just go ahead and tell you, just because you have a nice flat solid floor doesn't mean you should measure from that to anything on the truck because it's sitting on a suspension. Unless you have your truck up on jack stands and you know it's level to the floor, it's just not a good idea. Because I was sitting back and I was noticing that I couldn't see the frame horn on this side, but I could on that side. And you know, when I looked at the top of the radiator support with the cowl of the truck, this side just seemed to be higher, and I didn't build in enough adjustability to compensate for it. So I had to cut off the front mount and re-welded it back on, and I also made it lower so I could put some adjustability into it, which dealt with that issue pretty nicely, and I have everything lined back up again. I had a question about how I did the firewall and floor, so I wanted to go ahead and address that in this video. I cut it on the Crown Vic. This right here is the top of where the Crown Vic dash is, where it folds back into the car. In fact, I left part of it right here, so you can see back there where I made that final cut on the Crown Vic, and I carried that cut all the way across. And what I did is I left this shelf here so that I could basically set the wires up on top of it and zip tie them down so that I didn't have to worry about them being in the way, because I knew that that was going to be above where the AC is going to sit in here once it's all mounted back up. So there's a good shot so you can see that ledge that's up there. And over here on the floor, I went ahead and I cut it. You know, the truck flares out at the bottom more than at the top. So I forget the exact measurements, but you can see it's pretty much right at the pinch weld on the Crown Vic. And then I flared it out down here towards the bottom, and then I went into a 2" by 4" box tube on here. So I'm still going to body work that out so that it's going to be flat. You won't see that, but that hopefully answers some of your questions. I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the emergency brake right to this. I know some people leave part of the car and then they'll mount the emergency brake to it, but all you have to do is adjust this hole right here, and you can mount the e-brake right to it. And I think that's going to be a lot nicer than it standing off from the side of the truck anyway. The rest of the floor, I did it pretty similar to Scrap to Metal Art and Rudy and pretty much everybody. You know, where right here at the this back cross member, I cut right behind that and then just put in a piece of flat, I think it was 10 gauge steel that went up to the where the fuel tank sat up here on the truck. The rest of this out here is all Crown Vic floor, and I made it so that the cab, it's hard to see in the bottom side, so the cab sits about level with the frame, and I've got about 3/4 of an inch gap between that the 2x4 tubing and the frame, so it gives plenty of room if I need to move the cab around on the frame. If you need some more specific answers, just let me know and I'll see if I can get some measurements for you. I got the bed back on there. and starting to get some progress going forward. I spent way more time on this front end than I wanted to, but it's sitting right now, and so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this bolted up loosely, and then I'm going to start working on the filler. So that's where it sits right now. It was a little bit longer of a check-in today, but did quite a bit of work, and I plan on working into the evening. It's been a really beautiful weather today, you know, for Easter weekend. It's been great. So I'm going to take advantage of it, and I'm going to keep on working and see if I can get this thing with the doors and the hood back on it and looking more truckish. So we'll check in later.